Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, and welcome to the live for Diddy's day 15. Just 1 second. I am getting back feed again. Let me fix that. All right, now we're good. I should have all of that figured out now by day 15. But welcome to the live. It is day 15 of Diddy's trial. And the good thing about starting way later than the start of the trial is that we have time to kind of go through the testimony without all of the gaps for lunch, for sidebars, for breaks, and still catch up to where they are currently. So let's do that. We're going to start from the top of where the trial started today. And like I said, in short order, we will be caught up with where they are right now. They started today's testimony with a video forensic specialist. His name is Mr. Piazza, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So they're going to ask him a lot of questions about the videotape, the infamous videotape. And this is a witness called by the prosecution. And we'll see how the defense crosses this witness, because from what I understand, the defense is going to ask a bunch of questions, I guess, to try to put a little bit of doubt in the jurors' minds about if this videotape that we all saw has been doctored in some way. So let's just see how that goes. And thank you all for joining the live. Please give it a like, drop a comment, even if it's just to say hello, and subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber already. Would appreciate the support. So let's jump in. I am going to switch over to the screen with the X feed on it, the thread, so you all could see the testimony as I go through it. You do not have to read along, of course. You could just sit back and listen. All right, so let's get into it. So, have you testified before? Question from the prosecutor. The expert says, mostly criminal matters. I've also done some civil and depositions. Have you been qualified as an expert? 50 times. We moved to qualify Mr. Piazza as an expert. No objection from the defense. He's an expert, the judge said. Prosecutor, how many times have you worked for SDNY? That's the Southern District of New York. He said 50 or 100 times. Prosecutor, does that impact your testimony? No, I do 75% defense work. Are you being paid? What is your hourly rate? $295. He said yes. Prosecutor, you analyzed cell phone videos and surveillance videos. The expert said yes. Let me show you. And there's a video of Towel Combs. Kiki Cassie on the ground is shown. What is a frame rate? Frames per second. It could cause a video to have more info per second. This cell phone video of a video was shot on an iPhone 6, 30 frames a second. It was not edited or tampered with, I found. And again, this is where Diddy thought, as was testified by Eddie Garcia yesterday, when Diddy paid that $100,000 for the video from the hotel, he thought, and I think really the person who was selling him the video also thought, that that was the only copy. What they did not know is that the person who was working at security, Flores, who is the person in the video who goes to the floor that Diddy and Cassie and this escort was on to find out what in the world is going on up there, he videotaped using his phone a copy of what was on that video. So that is how the video ended up getting to CNN because, as was testified yesterday by our security, Eddie Garcia's manager downloaded the video to a thumbnail drive and deleted it from the server. But again, at that time, when all of that's going on, Diddy is unaware that there is yet another copy of that video that is out there. Okay. Uh, Piazza said the clock was set to play 30 frames a second, but this was 22 frames, so it played faster. We had to account for that. How? We counted the frames and used software to correct the timing. Were the surveillance videos altered? The expert said no. Here, the video stream was corrupted. This has caused a distortion. Prosecutor, the whole file or just these small pieces? The expert said the corruption exists in the video stream. There is a structure called a GOP, a group of pictures. We have predictive frames. You don't know this, but a static camera does not record a wall that doesn't move each second. It is repeated. Only what moves is recorded. Thank you. Prosecutor says play 55 seconds. Video shown Combs throws Cassie to the ground and kicks her. Prosecutor, did you see pixelation? The expert said yes. Does it represent manipulation? No. You could choose motion activity. The camera only turns on when there is motion, but it causes timestamp issues. Go back frame by frame. I want to point something out. The expert says this seems to be a collision of two issues. Look at the male sitting down. There appears to be a ghost of a person. The motion activity begins to sense that we have motion. Now there is a full figure in the frame. That file is corrupted. Did you make a compilation? Yes, our office requested it. They are edited to track the movement of individuals inside the events. Prosecutor, did it have different camera angles in it? Yes. How did you show the changes? Black screen. Is this the compilation? The expert said yes. Prosecutor, play the 30 seconds. What is happening? The male is running down the hallway. He throws her down, now dragged her on the screen. Prosecutor, what did the man just do? Expert, dragging the woman holding a bag. Prosecutor, what is he holding? The expert said it appears to be a cell phone glowing. Let's focus on what happens in the mirror. Play it. What happened? The expert says the male picked up a small object, what appears to be a vase, and threw it across the room at the woman. Prosecutor, continue playing. Who is emerging now? The female with a duffel, her luggage. Prosecutor, now who? The security person. Prosecutor, now the man, Combs, walks away holding what? Appears to be a cell phone. He puts it to his ear. Prosecutor, you find these accurate? The expert said yes, and this was all the footage I had. Prosecutor, let's turn to the sex videos. PX 201 and to 20210. Let me clarify. These are under seal. We recovered from the Frank Black user on a device provided to the U.S. by Ms. Ventura. Prosecutor, these are enhanced versions of original videos created in 2012, 2014. Mr. Piazza, what were you asked to do with the sexually explicit video? Expert said enhance the audio component. Why did they want to enhance the audio on these videos? Ugh. Okay, prosecutor. We admitted these videos into evidence and no further questions. Okay, so now the defense is going to cross-examine this expert. Defense attorney, what is your understanding of the source of those surveillance videos? Expert, the native system. How did they come to your possession? The expert said they were exported and transcoded. Defense attorney, who gave the surveillance video to you? Expert said the U.S. Attorney's Office. Who gave it to them? Piazza says, I don't know. Did you say it was from a cheap system? Piazza said, I don't think I said that. Defense attorney said, let me show you your notes. Prosecutor said, this is only for the witness. The judge said, yes. Defense attorney says, so you called it cheap. Piazza said, I don't know when this document was created, but you thought the system was cheap. Piazza said, in a way. Let me play you 10C103. Okay, so I guess this is another exhibit. There are 2 minutes not shown, the defense attorney says. The expert says, this is my corrected version, but there are a few issues that we cannot correct. The system is buffering some of that time, and some portions were motion activated. Defense attorney, let's again play the male coming into the elevator bank at 11:02, and then the timestamps are jumping around. On the video, Cassie is being kicked on the ground. Piazza is constantly playing catch up. Garagos, play ahead. We're at 11:28, and Garagos is the defense attorney. Defense attorney, the female picks up the house phone. There's some sort of cut. Can you explain? Piazza, can you back up and go frame by frame? Defense attorney says, sure, but is the male separated from her? The forensic video expert said, yes, the bag drop triggered it. A defense attorney said a 10-second difference. Okay, so what we're reading so far is a lot of questioning of this video forensic expert about frame speed and why is the motion activated movement in the video happening the way it is. So honestly, this is again the defense trying to make lemonade out of lemons, because I guess they're trying to raise doubt about the credibility of the video, and y'all know that's a lost cause. That's a lost cause. But hey, I guess they're doing what they're getting paid to do, and if this can raise, I don't even see this raising any doubt with any juror. How is this line of questioning going to change the fact of what we saw Diddy do to Cassie in that video? I don't see that happening, but I digress. So let's continue. The expert said there's a 5-second offset between two cameras. That's what you just showed. Defense attorney, okay, the female picks up the phone and the male walks away. Start again, please. Is this his walking away? The expert says yes. Defense attorney says play more. I think the defense attorney also might be doing harm to their case, because you should not want to have this video up in front of the jury any more than you have to. The show Diddy beating up Cassie at this hotel. Whatever they thought they would gain from this, which in my assessment is absolutely nothing, because at the end of the day, you're not going to tell me anything about the frame speed that's going to make me say, oh, okay, he didn't do that then. So, and then you're like showing them the video again. I do not get this decision at all. Okay, so the defense attorney said, did you see this translucent or ghost-like figure in the cell phone video as in the surveillance video? Piazza, the expert, said the cell phone video was not high quality enough to capture it. Defense attorney, but it's not there. Piazza said it is not. Defense attorney, Mr. Piazza, thank you so much for coming. We have no further questions for you. Then they went back to the prosecution for redirect. I hope this is over soon. So they are 5 minutes off. Piazza said, my notes told me there was a 5-minute, 55-second difference and another offset of 5 seconds. Prosecutor, do these videos reliably and accurately depict what happened? The expert said yes. The judge said you may go. Before the next witness, a sidebar. So I am so happy that we got all caught up on that testimony at this point in the day, because imagine if we were struggling through that this morning, because I'm sure that took way longer than what it just took us to get through it. And honestly, in my opinion, it was much ado about nothing. So let me know if you all see it differently. Did you get anything in that testimony that you thought would be of value to the defense at all? Of course, the defense crosses the witness, but I feel like they just gave the jury more opportunity to see the video again of Diddy committing domestic violence against Cassie, and I just don't think that was smart. But anyway, now we're at the point where Brianna Bongolan is on the stand, and she goes by the name Bonna. And from what I know of her story, she is the person, I think she's into fashion. She's either a fashion designer or something like that. But she is the person who said Diddy dangled her from a balcony. So I don't know what else she will be sharing with us today, but that is the lady who is on the stand now. Her name is Brianna Bongolan, and she goes by the name Bono. Okay. So they asked her, "What do you work in?" She said, "Fashion design." Okay. Yeah. I thought that's what she did. Prosecutor, "What did Mr. Combs do to you?" "Held me over a 17th story balcony." "Any after effects?" She said, "Night terrors. I wake up in my sleep." "Who is this?" And that's what the prosecutor showing her a picture. She said, "It's Cassandra Ventura, Cassie, my friend. I met her in 2013 at Young and Reckless, the streetwear company, then at Diamond Designs." Prosecutor, "How would you describe Cassie's relationship with Mr. Combs?" Bonner said, "Volatile. I did not want to meet him right away. I had seen a black eye. She begged me to meet him." Prosecutor, did you do design work for Mr. Combs?" Bonner said, "A little." Prosecutor, "Where did Mr. Combs live?" Bonner said, "I think in like Beverly Hills." Defense attorney said, "Objection, speculation." The judge said, "Ask another question." Prosecutor, "Do you know the name of the street?" "Mapleton, 200 South Mapleton." Prosecutor, "What did you do with Cassie?" Bonner said, "Drugs, and we'd go shopping. We'd hang out with Deontay and others." I tell you, everybody was on some kind of drugs. Everybody. Prosecutor, "Is this a photo of you and Cassie shopping?" "Yes." In April 2016, Puff texted Cassie, asked where she was, sent a list where we'd been. Prosecutor, "Had you or Cassie told Mr. Combs where you were?" Bonner said no. Prosecutor, "How did it make you feel?" The defense attorney objects, the judge overrules. Bonner said, like, "Oh my God, he knows where we've been." Prosecutor, "Where would you sleep at Cassie's? A couch or a balcony?" is what Bonner replied. "Did Mr. Combs come over?" Yes. He banged on the door and came in." Prosecutor, "Did you know how?" Bonner said, "I don't know. He was upset. He threw a knife in her direction and she threw it back. He left swiftly." Prosecutor, "Were you doing drugs?" She said, "I don't remember." Prosecutor, "Did you call the police?" "No." "Why not?" "I was scared." "Did you see injuries on Cassie?" "She showed me on FaceTime before makeup for the perfect match." Prosecutor, "What did she say?" Bonner said she was quiet. Mm, okay. Bonner said, "We were at a party at the Blind Dragon, a karaoke bar in West Hollywood. When then we met at Cassie's house to help her pack. Deontay was there. Puff came." Prosecutor, "Are you under subpoena?" She said, "Yes. I won't get in trouble if I am truthful." Prosecutor, "Did Mr. Combs provide you drugs?" Bonner said, "Yes. One was called G. I am not an avid user. Ketamine, marijuana, and cocaine." Prosecutor, "How often did you get drugs for Cassie?" Bonner said, "Often. Those oxy pills." Prosecutor, "Did she pay?" Bonner said, "Yes." Okay, so Bonner was a fashion designer and a drug dealer. Okay. Prosecutor, "Did you get drugs for Mr. Combs?" Bonner said, "Yes, once, cocaine." Prosecutor, "Did you sell drugs to others?" She said, "Yes, sometimes." Prosecutor, "Did you try with Cassie to stop drugs?" She said, "Yes, we would try to cook, but there were a lot of drugs around." I wonder what she meant. We try to cook. What did she mean by that? When we go over to the CNN page, we'll see if they add a little bit more context. Okay, prosecutor, "Has Mr. Combs ever threatened you?" Bonner said, "Yes." Prosecutor said, "Let me show you a photo from April 2016. Who's in it?" Bonner said, "The photographer who goes by the name Bad Boy with an I. We thought it was cool that was his name. We thought we'd make some art." Puff came up close to my face and said, "I am the devil and I could kill you." And then they're saying Bonner seems to sob. I am the devil and I could kill you. I am the devil and I can kill you, is what she said. Puff came close to her face and said, now, do we feel bad for the devil? Mhm. The devil's whole legacy is destroyed. Can't feel bad for that. Can't feel bad for him. He brought all of this on himself. Okay. So, anyway, back to the testimony. She said that Puff came close to my face and said, I am the devil and I could kill you. And the reporter is indicating that she seems to sob. Prosecutor, were you taking drugs that day? Probably cocaine. Did you continue to see Mr. Combs or that? I don't know what the reporter meant by that. Did you continue to see Mr. Combs? She said, yes. The prosecutor said, why? Bonner said, I don't know. Okay. Prosecutor, did you tell the government about this threat in your first meeting? She said no. Prosecutor asked why. She said the defense attorney objects. The objection is sustained. The prosecutor says we could break here. All right, so let's scroll on down. This is the benefit of joining the testimony late. We don't have to sit and wait through the break. Okay, Judge, anything before we bring the jury in? The prosecutor said no disputes, laughs, but we now think Jane will not get on the stand today given how this is going. We would like to get Enrique Santos on today, some exhibits for Jane and tech issues, Judge. I said, okay. All right. Jury comes out, then is told to return to the jury room. The judge said, jurors, we have some tech issues, have to go under the tables. I'm going to ask you to retire to the jury room just for your comfort. We'll bring you back in a few minutes. So the jury comes back. Prosecutor and Bonner is back on the stand. What happened on the balcony? She said, I was there. Prosecutor, now was there. Who was there? Bonner said, Cassie and my ex-girlfriend at the time. Prosecutor, what were you doing? Bonner said, sleeping on the couch with my ex. Prosecutor, doing drugs? Bonner said, I don't recall. What did you do when Mr. Combs arrived? Okay. What did you do when Mr. Combs arrived? Bonner said, I took my ex-girlfriend to the bathroom. I went, shh. Why? Bonner said, I don't want to expose her to what I saw. Prosecutor said, and then? Bonner said, went out on the balcony and either lit the blunt or was about to. Mr. Combs came up behind me on the balcony. He lifted me up and put me on the railing. Prosecutor, can you show us how he held you? Bonner, to myself. Prosecutor, show us, how much do you weigh? Bonner said, I can't say because of the drugs, but about 115 pounds. Prosecutor, what did Mr. Combs scream to you? Bonner said, DIddy screamed to her. He yelled, you know what the F you did? I said back, I don't know what the F I did. Prosecutor, how long did he hold you there? Bonner said, how long it takes to say that multiple times. You know what the F you did. Wow. This is just so crazy. Prosecutor said, what next? Bonner said, he threw me on the balcony furniture. Prosecutor said, were you injured? Bonner said, I did not know at first. Prosecutor, what did Cassie say? Bonner, along the lines of, did you just hang her over the balcony? Then I heard her girlfriend is in the house. Bonner said he left and I left. I wanted to take a shower. I felt disgusted. I saw a huge bruise on my leg with like a piercing in the middle and back and neck pain. Prosecutor, is this photo a fair and accurate representation of your leg? Bonner said yes. Okay. Bonner said, I called one of my managers and they said, if you're scared of anything else, just go to the chiropractor. Prosecutor, did you tell the chiropractor who done it to you? No, they asked, but I just paid and took the neck brace. Prosecutor, is the neck brace in the photo of you? Bonner said yes. Prosecutor, did you ever talk with Mr. Combs about this? I said, I don't want any problems with you. He didn't say anything. Prosecutor, when did you last see them? January 2nd, 2018. The prosecutor asked, how do you remember? She said, I tattooed the date on myself. Prosecutor asked, why? She said, it's the day I decided to get sober. It was a New Year's thing in Miami at the one hotel. Puff, Cassie, and I did 8 hours of ketamine together. Are you aware Cassie included the balcony incident in her complaint? Bonner said yes. I told her she had the facts wrong. It wasn't in a hotel and Tiffany. Prosecutor, have you talked with Cassie about about your testimony or hers? Bonner said no, I have nightmares. I scream. Prosecutor, when was the last time you had nightmares? Bonner said the other day. Prosecutor, have you hired a lawyer about the balcony incident? Bonner said yes. My first lawyer hired in January 2024. Prosecutor, did you mention everything in your first meeting with us? No. Prosecutor, did your first lawyer send a demand letter to Mr. Combs? She said multiple, and the demand was high. He picked it. Prosecutor, did you approve the letters? No, they were incorrect. I let him go. Who? Tyrone Blackburn. Oh, no, not Tyrone Blackburn. Not Tyrone Blackburn. Tyrone Blackburn. As soon as you hear Tyrone Blackburn's name, if you're aware of Tyrone Blackburn, you immediately think scam. Not Bonner, but the lawyer. It's like a scam, kind of, you know, suspicious lawyer. Okay. Prosecutor said, did people reach out to you? Uh, Bonner said, Tiffany, Cassie, the producer, Rob Holiday. Prosecutor, was he friends with Mr. Combs? Bonner said, yes. Defense attorney said, may we have a sidebar? The judge said, we may. Okay, let's see where we are. All right, just 1 second because they are back from the sidebar. Who did Mr. Holiday say he was calling for? Bonner said he was calling for Puff. What offer was he authorized to offer? The defense attorney objects. The judge sustains the objection. Okay. All right. So far from the Bonner testimony, well, let's back it up even further. From the video forensics guy who testified first, in my opinion, much ado about nothing. Okay. I'm sure the prosecution called this witness just to say, hey, the video y'all saw at the hotel with Diddy committing domestic violence against Cassie, it has not been a doctored video. It is legit. This is actually what happened. The defense spent time questioning the video forensic expert. A complete waste of time in my assessment. I also feel like it also just gave more opportunity for that footage to be up in front of the jury of what was happening at the hotel. So I didn't see how that was a value add for their side. And now we have Bonner on the stand. And Bonner is a fashion designer, used to hang out with Cassie a lot. They did a lot of drugs together. Bonner also was selling drugs. She testified to selling drugs to Cassie as well as Diddy. They did ketamine, cocaine, marijuana. Um, so she talked about that. She talked about Diddy coming to Cassie's place. She was asleep on the balcony on the couch. He picked her up, put her on the railing. The rumor has always been he dangled her off the railing. She said that when he was doing that, he said, "Do you know what the F you did?" And she said back to him, "I don't know what the F I did." She said at another time they were somewhere and he got super close in her face and he told her, "I am the devil and I could kill you." So at this point, Bonna is sharing with us the fact that she hired a lawyer as to kind of, I guess, to get a civil suit going with the things that had happened to her. Her first attorney was Tyrone. And let me go back up to his name. Where is his name? I just thought, girl, that is not the one. Tyrone Blackburn. Her first attorney was Tyrone Blackburn. Tyrone Blackburn has been associated with a few of the civil suits against Diddy, and let's just say how he writes up the complaint on his side. It is very. It's not what you would expect from a lawyer. Is very real hip hop of what is it? Real hip hop of Atlanta. Is that it got that kind of energy to it. It's like it's not. It's just not. I think he's had other cases too that may have been dismissed at this point. So it's a credibility issue when you mention Tyrone Blackburn, and I don't think Bono's credibility at this point is necessarily that much of a question mark. But Tyrone Blackburn, just hearing his name, if anybody on that jury knows who he is, it may make them just automatically say, "Oh, okay, let me see if this is for real or not," because he's just not highly thought of. And so she said he submitted some information for a civil suit. I guess he also, before that, sent letters to Diddy demanding a certain amount. She said it was high. She said he also did some other things that she did not feel was correct in whatever he was submitting on her behalf. So she no longer has him as her lawyer, and she's now chosen this other lawyer. So that's where we are right now. And again, she said that Diddy like dangled her over the balcony. She said that at another incident, he got up in her face and told her, "I am the devil and I could kill you." He did some type of damage to her leg and to her arm. She had a neck brace and all the things. So this is where we are right now in this testimony. Let me see if we have any update. And okay, we do have an update. So let's go a little bit up from where we left off. Prosecutor said, "Who did Mr. Holiday say he was calling for?" Bonner said he was calling for Puff. Prosecutor said, "What offer was he authorized to offer?" The defense objects. The judge sustains the objection. Prosecutor, how did you feel during the call? Bonner said, "I declined the offer." The defense attorney, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, the defense attorney said not responsive. The judge sustained. Move on unless you are prepared to ask some of the foundational questions we discussed at sidebar. Prosecutor, did you talk with him again? No. Okay. So she is Bonna is definitely trying to get some type of compensation for what she experienced at Diddy's hands. And it sounds like from what she described, that is dangling her from the balcony. That's the only thing she's really mentioned. But not that that's not enough. Let's be clear. Not that that's not enough. But that's the only incident she mentioned. Everything else was verbal. Everything else was also like she knew wherever she and Cassie were hanging out, he was always aware of what exactly they were doing, where they were, and all that type of thing. So we're gonna see where this goes. I will tell you based off of what has taken place so far today, the day feels like a filler day. Like when you watch reality TV, if you watch reality TV, there are certain episodes where people say, "Oh, okay, they were just filler episodes," meaning it was much ado about nothing. It was a Seinfeld episode. Is nothing really happened. There's no groundbreaking anything that came from any of the testimony. I'm saying that specifically to Bonna because I don't know. Again, I am at the point, like a lot of you are at the point of trying to connect these incidents to a criminal organization. To an in her situation with Diddy, the whole balcony incident, she said she didn't call the police, right? But she is trying now to file a civil suit, and okay. So again, I'm just trying to connect this incident, this incident that allegedly took place. I'm trying to connect that to how is that showing me what is the criminal enterprise that this particular incident supported. And so that's why when I say today's testimony has been much ado about nothing, from the video expert to now Bonner talking about the incident on the balcony. Yes, it's salacious. It's salacious. And I'm sure people will be like, oh, Bonner testified that, she only weighed 115 pounds and she was asleep on the couch, and Diddy came in and he was upset and he hung her over the balcony and he said, do you know what the F you did? And she said, I don't know what the F I did. And Cassie was like, you better stop because her girlfriend is in the other room. Okay. Salacious. Salacious, right? Okay. Probably get people a lot of clicks and views. But I go back to, how is that incident connecting to a criminal enterprise? How did that incident support the goals and the activities of a criminal enterprise? What is the criminal enterprise? So that's why when I say this testimony is much ado about nothing, not dismissing what Bonner went through. Bonner sounded like she been through a lot. Bonner was not only that incident with Diddy, but she was on drugs just like the rest of them. She was also selling drugs. And so Bonner seems like she's had a rough time of it. I think she had a tattoo on her. I think she said from maybe New Year's 2018, and she said I think that was when she got sober. So that's good for Bonner. But there's just not a lot to see here from this testimony, in my opinion. So let me just go back and see if they have any other updates since then. Okay, they had another sidebar. The judge said the objections are sustained. Move on. Prosecutor, your lawsuit, did you write it? She said no. How much is being requested? Bonner said $10 million. Prosecutor said nothing further. And then the judge asked the defense if they wanted to cross, and they said yes, please. Okay, so maybe this will be interesting because. All right, so she requested $10 million from Diddy in response to what happened. It sounds like who was the other person that testified? Might have been Mia, I think, who also started her request with $10 million. And she actually ended up getting 400,000, 200,000 for her attorney and 200,000 for herself. That's a long way off from 10 million. Okay, so now Bonner has also requested $10 million. Again, how do these alleged individual crimes connect back to these activities? These criminal activities were in support of a criminal enterprise. Still don't see it. And I want to see it. I want to see it because I want Diddy to pay. I think Diddy is a horrible person. But if you're going to charge him with RICO, and at this point, every day that goes by, because we're a little over the halfway mark now, every day that goes by, it feels like the government overreached, that they overcharged. They overcharged them. I can go down since, following this trial, I can go down the boxes that I believe The jury probably believes the prosecutors, the government, has proven that Diddy is guilty of a certain thing. For example, I believe most people on the jury will not have a problem saying that Diddy is guilty of forced labor. Listening to assistant after assistant after assistant talk about not only the excessive work hours, the 24/7 work hours, some of them described, the ones who described they were not allowed to go home. And even when they did go home, sometimes they would be sent for by security. So, forced labor, I think many folks on the jury say, check, okay, yeah, he did that. Bribery, the testimony yesterday by Eddie Garcia, I believe all of those jurors will be convinced that Diddy did bribe the hotel security to buy what he thought was the only video of what happened at the hotel between him and Cassie. And as we all know now, because we're here now, that was not the case. So, bribery, check that box. Yep, he did that. Kidnapping, I believe most of those jurors probably are going to believe Capricorn Clark, that she was definitely kidnapped by Diddy. I think they are going to believe her. So let's check that box. Then we have arson. Now, some of those jurors, I don't know of all because I don't think they ever directly showed that Diddy had a hand in the arson. But there's enough circumstantial evidence around it, the breaking into Kid Cudi's house and the different communication between them, the other witnesses, and Capricorn Clark even saying that he made her go and had a gun in his hand to his house, and he said he was going to kill Kid Cudi. So I think there's enough circumstantial evidence that the jury may not have a problem checking that box to say, yeah, we believe he did arson. Extortion. You could check that box. You could check that box. The jury definitely is going to believe Cassie's mother, who got on that stand and testified that she and her husband had to take out a $20,000 home equity loan to pay Diddy because he was demanding it and said if they did not, he was going to release sex tapes of their daughter. And then yesterday, when the former head of finance was on the stand, prosecutors showed a few transactions around the $20,000. So we could even see the flow of the money, even when Diddy sent the money back to Cassie's father. So extortion, we could check that box. So let's just go with that. Let's say the jury could check the box that, yep, Diddy extorted Cassie's parents. He set Kid Cudi's car on fire. That's the arson. He kidnapped Capricorn Clark. He also bribed the security guards. Thank you. At the hotel, and he forced labor because he had these people working around the clock and would not let these people go home. The question still then becomes, with all of those things that he did, right? Because he's been charged with RICO amongst some other things, but specifically to the RICO. What is the criminal enterprise that was supported by those activities? He's a serial criminal, if you ask me. Okay. Cause he doing all kind of shit he does. When he told that girl, when he got up close on her face and said, "I'm the devil and I could kill you," I do believe he thought he was like a super villain. And I do believe that he thought his power was coming from the devil. I do believe that. He may call on God publicly. Okay. He may do that publicly. But yeah, because he was into some wild things. So I think he is a serial criminal. I think he is definitely guilty of a lot of these things I just rattled off. He's definitely guilty of domestic violence. That's just not one of the charges. Okay. But if you're asking me to say, okay, yes, he is guilty of RICO, how do you get around the question of, please show me how? Please show me what is the criminal enterprise What is the criminal enterprise that benefited from all of those things I just rattled off that you could check the box on and say, yeah, he did that? What is it? So that's why I'm like, for us to be at the halfway mark of this trial, and we're also very close to the prosecutors being done with their side before the defense starts presenting witnesses. I don't know. And and I could have it totally wrong. The jury could be like, "No, we're good on everything. We're gonna say guilty on everything y'all put before us." And we're not bothered by these technicalities. Maybe that's how the jury will land. All I know is the prosecution, the government, in my opinion, they have not shown to this jury at all what is the criminal enterprise that benefited from Diddy's criminal behavior. They have not done that. Right? And I think the government overreached. I think they overcharged him. And that might come back to bite them. We will see, right? All right, so let's see. Let's pick up where we left off here. Um, let's see. She asked for the $10 million. Hold on, let me scroll up just a little bit. All right, how much is being requested? 10 million. The prosecutor said nothing further, and now it's the defense. Defense said, I need to ask you some questions. You have immunity as long as what you say today is true, right? Bonner said, yes. Defense attorney, who decides if you're lying? Bonner said, the prosecutors? That's an interesting question from the defense. Who decides if you're lying? That's an interesting question. She said, the prosecutors? The defense attorney said, Miss Bongolin, you were a graphic designer. She said, yes. You and Cassie would work on designs, including at her, I guess they meant house. True? Bonner said, yes. All right. You were focused on a t-shirt design. Bonner said there were a lot of things. Defense attorney, she asked you to come over. Bonner said, yes. Okay. Defense attorney, you suggested Cassie do a photo shoot in the pool in just a t-shirt. Bonner said that wasn't the first idea, but yeah. Defense attorney, you began to feel comfortable with her? Bonner says, sounds around it. Okay, maybe she meant sounds like it. Defense attorney, you spent the night? Bonner said, yes. Now, where are they going? Sounds like they getting ready to go into maybe Cassie and Bonner had hooked up or something. We'll see. Somebody in the comments said, oh, he's about to make this like a lovesick thing. You wanted her and she rejected you. That's exactly the vibe. 10 million makes you unusually creative. These questions. Let's see what else anybody's saying in the comments. Oh, so they are going for you guys were effing angle. Interesting angle. Proves again Cassie didn't need Diddy to have final say in everything. Uh-oh, they said, continue, defense attorney. No one hates women more than women. This lawyer is disgusting. I don't view it that way because at the end of the day, if you are a lawyer for the defense, you are a lawyer for the defense, whether you are a woman or a man, and you are paid to do your job. She is for the defense. So she cannot, as a defense lawyer, go up there and act like she's an advocate for the witness just because the witness is a woman. Come on. Somebody said, are they gonna kiss? Somebody else said she wanted Cassie, maybe. Somebody else commented, chips about to fall where they may. Somebody else said, did he pass the notes? So it sounds like she definitely is about to suggest that Bonner and Cassie were on, maybe some intimate level. She's going to suggest she fancied Cassie. Isn't she because she's gay? I don't know. Bonner is gay though. Somebody said, oh brother. Someone else said, you suggested Cassie do a photo shoot in the pool in just a t-shirt, and then they added this image. So yeah, so everybody's picking up on what the defense is putting down with the questions that they just asked. And let's see if we have any other update. Okay, let's go back up. All right, so the defense attorney said, "All right, you were focused on the T-shirt design." She said, "There were a lot of things." She asked you to come over. Bonner said, "Yes." Defense attorney, "You suggested Cassie do a photo shoot in the pool in just a T-shirt." Bonner said, "That wasn't the first idea, but yeah." Defense attorney, "You began to feel comfortable with her." Sounds like it, Bonner said. Defense attorney, "You spent the night?" Bonner said, "Yes." Okay. Defense attorney, "You went to parties with Cassie." Bonner said, "Not going to parties. We partied." Defense attorney said, "Okay. You did a lot of drugs with Cassie?" Bonner said, "Yes." Defense attorney, how did marijuana make you feel?" Bonner says, "Sometimes hungry." Okay. So somebody commented, "So Cassie was doing drugs enthusiastically, not because of freak offs." Is that the angle they are going for? Look, Cassie, no matter how she got there, because I'm not convinced she got there due to freak offs, but Cassie definitely was drug addicted. Diddy was also drug addicted. And as you talk to these different people that hit the witness stand, I don't know if all of them were drug addicted. This Bonner person, she sounds like she's drug addicted. But all of these, I don't know if there's one person. I don't think there is. There's not one person who was in the social circle or either working for Diddy who was not also using drugs. So they were all doing their thing. And yeah, I think if anybody tried to say, "Oh, Cassie got put on drugs by Diddy and she never used them all," come on. Come on now. There's enough evidence against Diddy where people don't have to try to falsely make Cassie some saint because come on now. It's almost like the whole story with Whitney Houston. You know how for years Bobby Brown got blamed for getting Whitney Houston on drugs or introducing her to drugs, and turned out the truth of the matter is it was actually Whitney Houston's older brother who first introduced her to hard drugs. So, just because something is right in front of your face and it's a narrative people want to go with, like people hated Bobby Brown at one point so much or just thought he was not a good fit for our Princess Whitney, that they blamed him for everything. They blamed him for everything, you know? And I think the reality is with that situation, they were toxic towards each other. So let's see if we have anything else here. All right, we do have an update. So let me scroll down a little bit. All right. So the defense attorney said, "You went to parties with Cassie." She said, "Not going to parties. We partied." So you know what that means, drugs, right? And the defense attorney, I'm sorry, the defense is asking the questions now, said, "Okay, you did a lot of drugs with Cassie." Bonner said, "Yes." "How did marijuana make you feel?" Bonner said, "Sometimes hungry." Defense attorney, "How does ecstasy make you feel?" Bonner said, "Uplighted." Defense attorney, "How about G?" I am really older now because what in the hell is G? Bonner said, "Like the negative parts of alcohol." Defense attorney said, "Perks." She said, "I threw up." Defense attorney said, "Cocoa Puff, blunt with weed and cocaine." What is Cocoa Puff? Cocoa Puff is a blunt with weed and cocaine. Oh, child. Some of these people ought to be happy that they are still alive. They ought to be happy that they are still alive. Blunt is a weed with cocaine. Yeah. And they need to be careful, especially with all this fentanyl stuff out here and stuff. And I'm like, wow. Okay, but she's talking about that back in the day. So I think she's clean now. Defense attorney, "You would agree with me that you and Cassie had a serious drug problem." Bonner said, "Yes." "You sold drugs to Cassie a lot." Bonner said, "Yes." "You got her hundreds of pills." Bonner said, "Yes, they were hers." What does that mean? Okay. Okay. Somebody said, "Oh, they're pushing Cassie as an addict." We know Cassie is an addict. Or at least I know I didn't think anybody was confused about whether or not Cassie was an addict. Somebody said the whole bunch were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Facts. Somebody else said, "So what's her immunity for? Selling drugs?" Someone else said, "But that's your friend." SMH, keep talking. The girl, look, these some of these has an immunity agreement that she has to testify, and if she gets caught in any lie while she's testifying, she could get in big trouble, and the immunity agreement could be null and void. So it really, it doesn't matter as far as the test. And then as far as the selling her the drugs, they were both a part of that life. If Cassie wasn't getting those drugs from Bonner, she would have been getting those drugs from someone else, and they were both also heavily using the drugs. It's just like that comment to me is just like the comments where people like, "Can you believe these defense attorneys?" Yes. Yes, I can believe the defense attorneys. That's what they have been hired for, is to defend the defendant. No matter how you may feel about the crime, the defense attorney is not there to advocate for the prosecution. So I'm like, I just don't understand when people make comments like that. I don't understand it. Okay. Someone said you would agree. Okay, so we've already read that part. You would agree. So let me flip over to the CNN side quickly and just see what they're saying right now. Uh, Bonner testifies most of her time with Ventura was spent getting high. Bonner said she and Cassie partied together and used a lot of drugs together. Bonner recounted the first time she spent the night at Ventura's home, confirming that Ventura asked if she liked to get high. Bonner said she replied yes, and they got high together. She confirmed that after that, she and Cassie spent most of their time together getting high. Bonner says she was seeking $10 million in her lawsuit against Combs. Bonner says she's seeking $10 million in her lawsuit against Diddy, but said she's not expecting any money to come from her testimony at this trial. Bonner says she filed the lawsuit against Combs because I wanted to seek justice for what happened to me. Bonner's direct testimony is over, and now the defense, of course, is questioning her. Bonner testified that a music producer named Bob Holliday reached out to her in early 2024. She said Holliday had been one of her best friends for a long time, and he was also friends with Diddy. She said Holliday called her on FaceTime, and he appeared to be in Combs' backyard in Beverly Hills. Bonner testified that Holliday told her he was calling on behalf of Combs and he was authorized to talk about settling with me. Bonner confirmed that about a month or two after she spoke with Holliday, her current attorney helped her file a lawsuit against Combs. She said she is no longer friends with Holliday. Mm. Okay, Bonner testified that she spoke to Cassie after Cassie filed her lawsuit against Diddy in 2023. She told Cassie that there were a few details wrong about the balcony incident described in her lawsuit, such as it not happening in a hotel and Ventura having the date wrong. When asked if she experiences lasting effects from the incident with Combs, Bonner whispered yes. Bonner testified she experiences nightmares, a lot of paranoia, and I used to scream a lot in my sleep, but it's dissipated a little bit. She said she didn't experience those things before the incident. Bonner hired a lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, in January 2024. Blackburn made a monetary demand to Combs regarding the balcony incident. Bonner testified that she fired Blackburn when she realized he had included incorrect information in the monetary demand paperwork. Yeah, he might have blown her case by doing that. So let's see if we have another update here. Okay. No, we're still waiting for an update. But meanwhile, someone in the comments said, we know they were all doing drugs. Cassie testified Diddy introduced her to drugs and then told her she needed rehab. I don't recall Cassie testifying that Diddy introduced her to drugs. I don't recall that in the testimony. But maybe I missed it. Bonner, let me ask you this. Was Diddy cheap with his drugs like he was with his escorts? Somebody said, is as if their client was any sober. Someone said, "Okay, she did and sold drugs, but how does this excuse Diddy holding her over the balcony? What happened to getting her out of the house? Why hold her over the balcony on the 17th floor?" Defense attacking Cassie, trying to neutralize or introduce angle for this morning's violent video. Uh, Somebody said she was doing drugs to cope with your client's abuse. No, let's see. This is where I'm like, okay, people, come on. This girl was doing drugs before Diddy. I would be willing to bet Cassie was doing drugs. Maybe not as extensively, but I would be willing to bet that Cassie was doing drugs before Diddy. Now, did it get worse? If I had to bet on it, I'd probably say yeah. It probably got worse with Diddy. But we don't have to make victims like saints in order to believe them. We just don't. Okay, we have an update, so let's go back and see. So let's go back up. The defense said, "You sold drugs to Cassie a lot." Bonner said, "Yes." The defense said, "You got her hundreds of pills." Bonner said, "Yes, they were hers." Defense attorney said, "Name the drug dealers." Bonner said, "I don't know if I can." Defense attorney said, "Let's refresh. In this job, your clothing line did not work out due to her skater mentality at Diamond Supply Company." Bonner said, "I believe they saw the vision, but whatever." Okay. Okay. We're going to wait and see where they go. We're going to wait and see where they go. All right. So we're still waiting to get an update from inside the court. And I think while we're doing that, I'll just go ahead and share some of what Law and Crime Network was discussing on the lunch break about the testimony that's been heard so far. So hold on one second while I share that screen.
Into your possession. Piazza replies that the surveillance video was exported from the native system, and the cell phone video was the recording from the native system. Piazza says that he wasn't.
We got a question from
jury sits and watched her as she took the witness stand. Now, as far as the jurors are concerned, I will say I did see them, especially during Frank Piazza's testimony, definitely kind of monitoring and looking at all the exhibits that are shown to them in front of their kind of computer screens right in front of them. Even during the cross-examination, when they were going time code by time code, frame by frame, timestamp by timestamp, you know what I mean, that they were all kind of intently looking at it from the angle that I could see. And I know a lot of people are like, we need to get Elizabeth a better angle, but the public sits on the best side to see the jurors. I just want to say that we are always trying to get try to see a reaction from us on the press side, but one day we'll get there, hopefully. Hopefully.
Hopefully. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And you know, I wish we get more questions about your time in Germany. Maybe we'll talk about that on Sidebar, because you're going to come on Sidebar later today, give us a full breakdown of the all the day's events. So thank you so much. Good seeing you.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, so now we get to bring in our expert panel on all of this as we take your questions for the next hour. I'm joined by criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Safa Robinson-Ferrer, criminal defense attorney William Corman, and in studio with me, trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Maris. Great to have you all here. Misty, I'm going to start with you since you're in studio with me. Is this the reason why Brianna Bangolin needed immunity? Is it the idea that she is what maybe the prosecution is going to characterize a co-conspirator in the racketeering criminal enterprise because of the drugs?
I had a feeling that this was going to be drug related. Keep in mind, anytime that there's distribution or use of drugs, that could be criminal activity. So she's going to be testifying about the use of drugs, obtaining drugs for these individuals. And so it doesn't even have to go so far as to be a co-conspirator in the racketeering enterprise. It could be enough just that she's involved in that drug distribution, and she's not going to want to, under oath, get up there and start talking about that and presumably open herself up to criminal consequences.
She's not the first person in this case who's asked for some sort of protection. Right. Got a question from Shop Girl. Is Jesse Weber a lawyer? I am, believe it or not, an attorney. Passed the bar, went to law school, passed the bar, practiced for several years, got out of it. My fellow panelists are much braver than I am. I went into TV, but they are fighting the good fight. Okay, so Safa, let me go to you. This is a question from Shai. Can Diddy be subpoenaed? I guess the question is, can he be subpoenaed and compelled to testify in this criminal case?
No, he cannot. Mr. Combs has the right to remain silent, and of course he's going to exercise that right. It's a constitutional right, so he cannot be subpoenaed to testify. Now, if he makes the choice to testify on his own behalf, he has the right to do that as well, but he cannot be subpoenaed. He cannot be compelled to testify.
William, we've got a question from Olivia E. How does Bangolin's testimony play into the prosecution's case of RICO and other charges?
Well, I think it's key testimony, and I think that's why the prosecution not only wanted to have her there, but also was willing to give her immunity. The acts that she's testifying to regarding the drugs, I think, are very important. I think what she saw in the room, she's one of those people that they actually put in the room where it happened, and I think her testimony is key. I anticipate that we're going to hear her talking about exactly what Diddy was doing in the room, Diddy's relationship with guns, Diddy's relationship with violence, Diddy's relationship with drugs, and all those things are key. Again, if the government didn't think she was important, I doubt they would have given her immunity in the first place.
There are three things I think she does, and I agree with you. One, she corroborates Cassie's testimony about abuse. Two, she talks about the threats, the violence, which goes to this overall pattern of criminal conduct for the racketeering charge. I mean, if you look at the opening paragraphs of pick which indictment you want, there's been a number of them. But if you look at it, it talks about how Sean Combs used his resources and his business and his staff to further a campaign of abuse against women. This just highlights it. And three, drugs, one of the underlying predicate crimes of racketeering. The prosecution has to prove too, there's arson, there's kidnapping, there's forced labor, there's drug offenses. And if you're talking about supplying drugs that were used potentially in freak-offs or just used in general, and you're talking about this criminal enterprise, she was allegedly a part of it or not, that helps to further this. Again, racketeering conspiracy, couldn't have agreed with himself to further criminal activity. He had to have an agreement with others, including the people around him. Okay, got a question for you, Misty. This is from YouTube Me. How can the defense differentiate between a celebrity couple's efforts to maintain their privacy from public scrutiny versus bribery for a crime in relation to the video with Diddy and Cassie at the hotel? So this is back to yesterday, right? The idea of paying for the tape. Is it a crime, or is it, I'm just protecting me and my girlfriend?
Well, that's actually exactly what the defense was getting at in cross-examination, and I would expect this to be even further explored when you get to the point of summation. Remember, on cross-examination, there was a question specifically asked about the non-disclosure agreement that was signed by the security guard when he accepted the bribe to get rid of the last copy of the tape. And the focus was on a provision that is a carve-out, meaning you can't disclose this to anybody, the existence of the tape. But you know who you can? The government. If you're called via subpoena, you are to comply. This does not stop you from complying with any kind of investigation. So that language would tend to show, from a defense perspective, a very typical NDA, which in every case is going to have that provision. The other piece of it is, Jesse, the testimony said that Cassie did not want to call law enforcement in. So here's my perspective on it if I'm the defense.
Yeah.
You got a great civil case. And I actually see why she settled the case with the Intercontinental for $10 million, which we found out at the end of her testimony. Because you have security guards totally not going by protocol. Obviously, the right thing to do in that situation is to call law enforcement no matter what anybody says, and to preserve the tape. But they didn't do that. So from a civil perspective, excellent, failure to secure case. From a criminal perspective, is it obstruction? And I think when the defense is going to say, well, no one was really stopping him from talking to law enforcement. Look at it, it's right there in black and white.
And bribery of a witness, right? I agree with you. I agree with you. The $10 million, I think I said it once before, like, the prosecution say, good. You think that goes to her credibility about why she's going after Diddy? You know, $10 million.
Something wrong.
No.
Yeah.
The hotel did something wrong. The only thing I'll push you back on and curious is, the allegation was, did he force Cassie to say, hey, get this tape for us? The other way of looking at it is, according to Eddie Garcia, Combs was like, don't make big purchases. That's a little strange, right?
Right. It makes it sound a bit more nefarious. Is he the one who drafts the NDAs? I would say no. I will say two things, and I agree with you. This is the type of thing that the jury can take in either way. But looking at it from the prism of a defense perspective, I would say, well, Cassie went back to her home with her friend, and her friend wanted to call law enforcement. Cassie did not want that to happen. So that desire to get law enforcement involved kind of takes away from that argument. And I would also say the most harmful part of that NDA to me is that it was not with Sean Combs as an individual. It was with one of Sean Combs' enterprises. Wow. So that's going to link it back into RICO, that this is not just him in his personal capacity. This links back to his businesses, which prosecutors say are just fronts for his criminal activity and racketeering.
Good point. All right, we have a super chat comment from Carol Mogan. Thank you so much. Hi from Australia. Wow, 2:45 a.m. here, getting tired, but worth staying up for the great coverage by Jesse and Elizabeth. Thank you so much, Carol. Really, really appreciate it. I know you were posting questions earlier in the week as well. So if you have any questions, and before you go to bed, shoot them out here. We'll make sure to answer them. Okay, Safa, question from Zachary Anderline. How can it be RICO if it's just him? Is KK, Christina Coram, going to testify? And if not, shouldn't she be charged as well as his head of security, Fahim Muhammad? Very weird to me. That's a fair question.
Most definitely. And right now he's charged as an individual. He doesn't have any co-defendants, which is really interesting because oftentimes with RICO cases, you see a number of co-defendants, and that's not the case here. So he is charged individually. His team members, including KK, essentially would be a part of that enterprise and further the enterprise, as the government would argue or allege. However, the government wants this testimony, and I do expect that we will hear from her and her testimony to further the RICO charges, to essentially show that, there was this plan, that it furthered the enterprise, that she was, yes, a part of it, and maybe she'll be granted some sort of immunity. The government hasn't gone after anybody else associated with Mr. Combs at the moment, and I don't think that they will. I think that they would have indicted those individuals with Mr. Combs if they intended on going forward with charges against them. But as of right now, he is their focal point, and I think Mr. Combs will continue to be their focal point. And yes, we will hear from some of the individuals, probably KK, in this trial going forward.
So if anybody's interested, we posted, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, a sidebar episode where we took all the critical times that KK has been mentioned in this trial and talking about how it fits into the overall case and whether or not she's going to testify. If you want to check it out, it's on Long Crime's YouTube page. But here we got a question, William, from Anthony Rosato. This is something we've been getting a lot. Curious if you can provide some commentary on it. If convicted, can the feds go after Diddy's money?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the hallmarks of a RICO case. In a situation like this, the properties that he owns, if any of the money went to buy those properties, if anything happened in any of those properties, he has exposure. So his exposure, isn't limited just to his freedom. It isn't just criminal exposure, but there's some financial aspects of it as well. I would be surprised if they didn't. I mean, we've heard testimony about things happening at these different properties at different places he owned. We heard about the freak-offs happening in a number of places. So yeah, that could all be fair game. That could all be up for grabs.
I got a question. I'll throw this back to you, Safa. This is from L. Spelunker. Suge Knight said in his interview he hopes Puff gets on the stand and tells his whole truth. Do you see that happening at all under any circumstances, or is it just too much of a chance to take?
I personally think it's way too much of a chance to take. However, Mr. Combs, he has that right to testify if he chooses. And a lot of times, individuals who are in domestically violent partnerships, they like to control the narrative. I mean, it's clear here that this case was at least rooted in the relationship between him and Miss Ventura was domestically violent in nature. So there's no question about that at this point. Individuals who are engaged in those types of relationships, specifically what would usually be the aggressor, they like to continue to control the narrative. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did ultimately get on the stand and testify. But as a defense attorney, and I'm sure his other attorneys will advise him, we do not want you to get on the stand and testify.
Yeah, sure, it's his
so the
choice.
Thing,
Yeah,
it's his choice. And I don't know that him and Suge Knight have always had the best relationship. So
I mean, he was accused in this trial of running to Mel's Diner with guns to try to track him down. I mean, look, it goes to the judgment. I mean, Misty, I'll throw it to you. I know you have a comment about this, but it goes to the judgment. This is the same guy who decided it was a good idea 2 days after CNN published the video of him allegedly beating Cassandra Ventura to basically admit it was him on tape. So it kind of corners his defense to say, they can't say, oh, the tape was altered, it's not him. Nope, that goes out the window. So, I mean, you have a comment on him taking the stand?
Well, I do. I had one comment on Suge. Just so happens I was in a segment where we called Suge from prison.
Oh, you were on that. Oh, okay.
Yes, I was on that segment, so I heard about his position on how is this a criminal conspiracy, and he raised one of the very questions that one of your viewers raised. How is it a criminal RICO conspiracy of one? He also brought up a potential pardon. He said, I don't think he's worried about it because maybe Trump will pardon him. And he did speak about how he should take the stand. Of course, again, no communication between the two,
right,
but just interesting observations from somebody who might have known him in the past. And that was on air. I happened to be sitting there, a little fly on the wall.
Well, it's because you're everywhere. You're everywhere with this case. Wait, do you really think, not to get political, but do you really think the president would pardon Diddy after all that's come out right now? Again, he's innocent until proven guilty. But how could you, this is a violent series of crimes that he's accused of. The tape in and of itself is really, really bad. How do you pardon somebody for something like this if he really is convicted?
Well, so the president actually, without getting political again, has the power of pardon and really doesn't have to explain the why. Do I think he will or won't? I don't know. I can only tell you what he said when he was asked about it during a press briefing. The president said, I would take a look at the facts. I haven't really been following it so closely. What I will say that your viewers might find interesting, there won't be a pardon if 50 Cent has anything to say about it. Wow. Because 50 Cent came out publicly shortly thereafter and said, I'm going to tell President Trump about every bad thing Diddy's ever said about him to take away that possibility of a pardon. But to go back to our legal question, as far as testifying, complete agreement. I think it would be a disaster. A lot of brilliant legal minds on that team. And sometimes when you have a large legal defense team, you might have people coming from different perspectives. But I'm sure the overwhelming advice is do not do it. It opens up too many doors. That being said, it is always the choice of the client.
So here's an interesting question for all three of my panelists. This is from Amanda Tavares. I'm going to start with you, William. If each of you were jurors and had considered all the presented evidence, I guess so far, would you vote guilty or not guilty on all of the charges, or perhaps only on one? William, I start with you.
So it's unfair. I mean, obviously the defense hasn't had an opportunity to put on their case yet. So we're sort of guessing in a vacuum. But I'll say what I said on the show a few days ago. I do think that the government has shown the RICO, has proven the RICO acts and the predicate offenses. I really do. I think it'd be very difficult, at least as we sit here right now, for Mr. Diddy to be found not guilty of any of these things. So again, recognizing that we haven't heard everything, we've only heard half of some of the stuff. I think the government's doing a very good job of proving their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Safa? I mean, look, it's true. We're in the middle of the case. And I'll also say they haven't even presented evidence directly yet regarding sex trafficking of alleged victim number 2, Jane. She hasn't taken the stand yet. Although, could be argued that based on what they've seen of Cassie so far, maybe, but not really. But you tell me, you think that if you were a juror, would you convict him?
So I have to second what William said, and the end of the day, the defense hasn't put a case on as of yet. It's the prosecution's burden to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt of each and every element of each and every offense. Considering that, and also, yes, I'm a defense attorney. Yes, I'm a person, so I bring my own perspective. Right now, I would come back not guilty. And the reason is because I'd like to hear more, and I don't think that we've gotten specifically to that full enterprise component. I do think that the prosecution is doing a good job at building it up to the point, but proof beyond a reasonable doubt without the defense's case, it's a little bit difficult for me to come back guilty at this point in time.
Misty Maris, you agree?
I would say, as of now, again, not having heard the whole case, because you never know what's going to happen, I think prostitution is pretty much in the bag. From
So
the prosecutor's
transportation
perspective.
to engage in prostitution.
Yeah, I think, and maybe the lesser included, which would just be engaged, which would just relate to prostitution, but you still have to have a crossing state lines because it's federal. I think that's pretty much, I've been established. I think tough for the defense to wiggle out of that one. With respect to the rest of it, I don't think we're there yet. And I do think prosecutors are going to have a challenge at the end of this case to put together what their time frame is, right? He's charged with criminal conduct spanning 20 years, right? That's the time frame we're talking about. And right now we've heard witnesses, a chunk of time here, a chunk of time there, 8 years here, 2 years there, 2 years there. The prosecutors are going to have to put together this timeline and really explain how this all comes together from the perspective of what's required under RICO conspiracy. Remember, that's a little bit different. RICO conspiracy requires 2 co-conspirators to commit crimes, 2 predicate crimes of the 10-year span. And also with respect to sex trafficking. So I think there's a bit more of a ways to go for the prosecutors to get there. And I think they're going to have the summation, I can't wait to hear it, because it's really going to have to put together the pieces.
I'm going to give my opinion, even though nobody asked for it, but I'm going to put it anyway. I agree with you. Transportation to engage in prostitution, I think it's incredibly difficult for them to argue against it. I mean, even if you take the fact Cassie said that Jules, who was alleged one of the escorts, particularly in the 2016 incident, that he was in that hotel room, that he was used in multiple cities. Okay, so now you have the alleged transportation of him for these freak-offs, these sex acts. And then Cassie says that these freak-offs happen in multiple different locations. So I think you pretty much have that transporting for purposes of not sex trafficking, transporting for purposes of mere sex work, prostitution, paid sex work. I think you have that. Sex trafficking with Cassie, I think you can look at 2 specific events. One, the 2016 Intercontinental alleged attack, right? The idea was that she had left a freak-off. He beats her up, drags her back in the direction of the hotel room. That was the allegation. I think it hits some of the elements that you need for sex trafficking, force, fraud, coercion. And also you look at the allegation that he showed her freak-off tapes on a plane. So they're traveling. They land. She feels that she's trapped. She has no choice. He threatened to release these tapes. He requests a freak off. Within hours, he gets a freak off. I think those are 2 concrete examples of sex trafficking, racketeering. I think there's 75% there. I think that they've listed out a lot of the underlying predicate crimes, whether it's through Kid Cudi arson, Capricorn Clark kidnapping, Cassie sex trafficking. You talk about the testimonies today, drug offenses, just the overall pattern of abuse and violence. But I agree, the idea of this being an agreement, a criminal agreement that he and his staff and his bodyguards all knew what they were doing. They were all agreeing to criminal activity to serve his interests. Again, 75% there. Okay, question from A. Hey, Jesse, great haircut. You know what? Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been struggling with haircuts recently, so thank you. Appreciate it. If he's not convicted, do any of the witnesses have any type of protection from him or others connected to him? And also shout out to Elizabeth Milner, the best. So, William, I'll throw this to you. If he's not convicted, do any of the witnesses have any type of protection from him or others connected to him?
Well, if they're asking about legal protection, I assume that, if he decided to go after one of these folks, he could then subsequently be charged with interfering with a witness or witness tampering or something along those lines. So if we're talking about criminally, that's how that would play out. I think it'd be unusual for him to turn around and sue witnesses based upon their testimony. They probably have some immunity about testimony they gave during the course of the trial. So I suppose the answer is I think those folks will be okay. Now, we also have heard lots of testimony about Diddy's anger issues and Diddy's propensity towards violence. So could some of these people be worried about it? Yeah, that might be an actual concern they have. There's very little we can do about it if he's found not guilty, other than, be prepared to call 911 if they see cars driving around like they did in front of Kid Cudi's house before the firebomb.
Right? I mean, there are so many different elements that the prosecution
I
has
was
to
about to
prove.
come back, but this
What
part
are
is
these jury
important.
instructions going to look like regarding RICO? They have to be quite thorough, right?
Absolutely. RICO is a really complicated charge. I mean, I expect that the jury instructions, which will be read out to the jurors by the judge verbatim, will be very lengthy. So I can expect, or we can expect, that the jury instructions on that component, or at least the remaining charges as well, will be at least an hour. And the judge will take his time to explain those charges to the jury, explain what they can consider, what they cannot consider, and he will explain it to them as many times as they need to. I've been in trials where the judge will explain to jurors, what the definition is. They'll go back and begin deliberations, and then they'll ask the judge to repeat what a specific definition is for a charge. And in this particular case, it could be the RICO, and the judge will explain that to them as many times as they need.
Yeah, and we'll see if they have any questions during the course of deliberations about it. Okay, super chat question from Maine. Maine, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so let's jump back, excuse me, to the updates we have at this point as far as what's happening in court right now. One of the things that I found very interesting about what we just watched is that 2 of the 3 experts said they would vote not guilty at this point in time. Now, they did preface that with the fact that the trial isn't all the way over yet. They haven't heard everything. The defense still has to put up their witnesses, but primarily it centers around connecting back to the RICO charge. So I just don't know how this is going to turn out. But let's go back to the screen where we have the thread from what's happening in court right now. Let me get there just a second. All right. Here we go. Excuse me. So we'll go back up a little bit where we left off. Let's see here. All right. So the defense attorney asked Bonner for the name of the drug dealers, and she said, "I don't know if I can." Let's refresh. In this job, your clothing line did not work out due to the skater mentality at Diamond Supply Company. Bonner said, "I believe they saw the vision, but whatever." Defense attorney, you believed you were one of Cassie's best friends. Bonner said, "Yes, but you didn't meet Mr. Combs for a year. You met in 2016, first time at her dinner at his house." She said, "Yes." "He was standoffish with you?" She said, "Yes." "Did you talk with Deontay Nash after his testimony?" She said, "Yes, but not about his testimony, right?" Bonner said, "We know what's going on." What does that mean, Bonner? What does that mean? And you're not going to convince me that you talked with Deontay Nash, the character we met during this trial, and y'all did not talk about his testimony. Come on now. That I'm not going to believe that. Let's go back to where we were. The defense attorney said, "Did you talk with Deontay Nash after his testimony?" She said, "Yes." But not, and the defense attorney said, "But not about his testimony, right?" Bonner said, "We know what's going on." Defense attorney, "You don't need to talk because you know." The prosecutor objects and the judge sustains. Defense attorney, "You hired Tyrone Blackburn to sue Mr. Combs." She said it was to seek justice. Defense attorney, your definition of justice is to sue Mr. Combs. Bonner said, can you rephrase that? Defense attorney, suing for money? Bonner said, yes. Defense attorney, November 2023, you are aware Cassie filed a lawsuit. You were working together then. She said, yes. May we have a sidebar the prosecutor asked for? The judge said, you may. Let's see, they're back right here. Defense attorney said, Cassie included the balcony incident in her lawsuit. Bonner said, true. Defense attorney, Cassie said this happened at a hotel, true? Bonner said she didn't say it like that. Defense attorney, you said your apartment, it has a balcony. Bonner said, I didn't say it like that. What is happening right now? Defense attorney said, Cassie told you she never saw you over. Cassie told you she never saw you over a balcony. Bonner said, no, ma'am, I don't remember. Defense attorney laughs. All right here. Read this page, then look up. You had these conversations? She said, I don't know. Okay, Bonner. Bonner, your credibility is slipping. That's what happens too, I think, when you do too many drugs, because details, I'm sure, are very fleeting. Defense attorney, about this alleged balcony incident, and you and Mrs. Ventura talked about the date, the place, who was there. Bonner said, true. In 2015 and 2016, you didn't see any signs of violence, true? Bonner said, I don't know the exact year. Defense attorney, the birthday party, what drugs were you doing? Bonner said, I don't remember. Defense attorney, alleged knife throwing incident. He just walked in and threw a knife. Bonner said, I'm not sure. Defense attorney, are you telling the truth? The prosecutor objects. I'm so confused right now as to what's going on. Let's hop over to CNN and see if they can maybe clear up some of this. Let's see. Bonner confirmed that she spoke to Cassie before and after Ventura filed her lawsuit in November 2023. Ventura asked Bonner to name her in connection with the balcony incident in her lawsuit, but Bonner said she refused. Cassie asked Bonner to name her in connection with the balcony incident in her lawsuit, but she said she refused. Bonner also testified that she did not tell any of her friends about her own lawsuit. Bonner confirmed that she first met Diddy sometime around 2016 at a dinner at his house. She testified that she went to the dinner as Cassie's friend. She confirmed that Diddy was very standoffish with her that day. Bonner testified that she's still friends with Cassie and celebrity stylist Deontay Nash, who testified last week. She said she's spoken with both of them since the trial began, but confirmed they have not discussed their testimony. Bonner also testified that she hired a lawyer to sue Combs. She also acknowledged that lawyers she's hired have acted on her behalf. Okay. Defense attorney asked Brianna how she felt when she used drugs like marijuana, cocaine, ketamine, G, and acid. Bonner said they partied a lot together and she regularly sold drugs to Cassie. You would agree with me that you and Cassie had a serious drug problem. Bonner said, yeah, we had a problem. On one occasion, Bonner said she got Ventura so many pills it scared her. Bonner acknowledged that she and Ventura were doing drugs together before Bonner met Diddy. Yeah. Okay, so just more testimony about the drug use. So that's why I said when people are like, who introduced whom the drugs, I am not playing that game because I don't think, first of all, we've had any evidence that Diddy introduced Cassie to drugs. And these people, maybe it's the whole entertainment business thing, but all of the people that we have been introduced to in this little group all of these people who are either in the entertainment business, friends of somebody, assistants, even working for the entertainers, they're using drugs. So who's not using drugs at this point? Yeah, so I definitely can't imagine getting into a conversation about, okay, they're using the drugs, but who gave them the drugs? Who started them on it? Come on. They made a choice to take drugs. They may not have intended to become an addict. I don't know if anybody ever intends to become an addict, but they made a choice, just like everyone else who got into taking drugs and it went wrong. Okay, so let's go back up. So the defense attorney said, "Didn't you tell the government they would get in knife fights?" Plural. Bonner said, "I don't remember." She said, "Let me show you." I was suggesting where the knife came from. Defense attorney, because it makes no sense. Defense attorney, you're saying you don't know how he got in to throw the knife, but once he's left, you're no longer worried? Bonner said, I don't remember how I felt. Defense attorney, you say at a photo shoot, Mr. Combs said, I could kill you. Bonner said, yes. Okay. Yeah, I think Bonner's high right now. I don't know how this testimony might be coming across in the actual courtroom, but how it's coming across by me reading this thread, I'm like, girl, are you okay? Are you okay? Somebody said Bonner is definitely high as F. Somebody said, while you were high on drugs, yes, no further questions. All of a sudden, they don't remember. Someone else said, I can't wait to hear from the reporters in the courtroom because these tweets ain't giving the full picture. That's why I flipped to the CNN side to see if I could have more context. Someone says she has worse memory than me and I'm a goldfish. That's funny. That is funny. Okay. Let's see if we have any other update at this point. Let's see. We got through all of that. Yeah. So we're still waiting for an update. Last thing we had is defense attorney saying, you're saying you don't know how he got in to throw the knife, but once he's left, you're no longer worried. And Bonner said, I don't remember how I felt. Defense attorney says, you said a photo shoot. Mr. Combs said, I could kill you. Bonner said, yes. Amber said, this feels like the least credible witness yet. Maybe it's the drug dealing followed by the high dollar lawsuit that's damaging her credibility, or maybe Westmoreland is turning up for the defense. We shall see. I think she is coming across as not credible at all. She doesn't remember. She don't remember nothing. She done told us about all the drugs she been on. She done told us about how she was also selling drugs. She had a lawsuit that with that first attorney who everybody knows is a scam attorney, and then it's not coming across well. It's not coming across well. And I don't know if Cassie was trying to get her to mention her by name in her lawsuit to try to help her out or to give her situation more credibility, but she said she refused to do that. Okay, so back up. We said, defense attorney said, you said a photo shoot. Mr. Combs said, I could kill you. She said, yes. Defense attorney said, but at first you told the government it was at a party. Bonner said, I don't know. Defense attorney, your first demand letter said, Mr. Combs said, I could kill you while I hung you over the balcony. Bonner said he did both, just not at the same time. Okay, we need to get her off the stand. We need to get her off the stand. Okay. Someone here in this comment, they would suggest probably that I'm tripping. They said people judging the witness is wild to me. Her answers clearly come from someone who is scared or traumatized. I don't believe that. And the lawyer knows that. That's why it's easy win. She's benefiting from the witness's fear. She even testified that she had nightmares the other day. I hate this. Okay. Okay. Y'all gonna make her back on. Y'all gonna make her get back on that shit again after this cross examination. Somebody said. The way she's coming across in these comments, I'm wondering if she's on it right now, because it's not coming across too well. Yeah, I don't. Somebody said I thought Mia was the weakest link, but Bonner is on another level. Yeah. She went from "I will kill you" demand letter to "you know what you did." Now nobody is forgetting that LAMO LMAO. Yeah. 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 I mean, to me, she's just not coming across as a credible witness. And this is in support of what? In support of what? You say, okay, let's say you say Diddy hung you off the balcony. You got Cassie saying at another time she didn't see that. And then she said she did see it. But let's just go where he did it, because it is definitely within the realm of possibilities for Diddy to have done that. So let's just say he did that. Okay. He okay. What charge? Under the uh charges that he has up against him right now, what that incident applies to, what charge? Coercion, maybe. But he wasn't sex trafficking you. um I definitely agree, if this man hung you over the balcony, especially if you had went to the police right then and filed charges or whatever, it's definitely a crime. You can't do that to people. It is definitely assault, okay? But where does that fit in these charges? And not to mention, once you get beyond that incident, the only thing this witness is telling us is how strung out she was on drugs, how Cassie also was like had a drug problem. So, and then you're also telling us the things you remember, but you're also telling us you don't remember a lot of stuff. So, what is the jury supposed to do with this testimony? What is the jury supposed to do with this testimony? How, since she is a witness for the prosecution who has given her immunity to come to court today and testify, how is this testimony beneficial to the government? How? I don't see it at all. So let's go back and see if we have any update. Okay. Let's check CNN and see what they're saying about all of this. Okay, so we do have an expert on CNN who has an opinion about how Bonner's testimony is shocking and damning. Let's see if we agree. Well, let's see if you agree, because I'll give my opinion on here, and then feel free to drop a comment to what your opinion might be. Bonner's testimony has been, quote, shocking and damning. Already don't agree. And shows Diddy Combs' alleged abuse also extended to those he was not romantically involved with. Elise Adamson, a former federal prosecutor, said. That's why she's saying that, because she's a prosecutor. Quote, Bonner was not in a relationship with Sean Diddy Combs, and if you recall, the defense has really tried to frame their alternative narrative, excuse me, of what was happening with Cassie, between Cassie and Combs, as a toxic domestic violence. Adamson explained, but here we have another witness who was not romantically linked to Combs being violently abused. Adamson said that Bonner's testimony goes directly to the racketeering and conspiracy charge prosecutors are trying to prove, because it demonstrates that Combs was operating in a way that, through threats, violence, and abuse, that goes to the corrupt enterprise aspect of the RICO. I do not agree. I do not agree. And when I tell y'all, I want the prosecution to give me something that I could be like, you got him. Because I believe Diddy deserves everything he's getting right now. But I hate what I'm actually seeing. What this prosecutor just said, I don't agree with anything she just said. And maybe she has a jury full of people who agree with her. But no, you showing me an incident where Diddy put his hands on a woman, not in a romantic setting. A friend of Cassie's, there's no romantic connection. I mean, we've already heard testimony from assistants where he allegedly put his hands on them, and that was no romantic type situation. Okay, that does not prove RICO. That how does that prove RICO? What did that criminal act? Because it is a criminal act. What did that criminal act present in this case to automatically mean, or to get us to understand that that criminal act of putting your hands on somebody is a part of RICO because it's supporting the criminal enterprise, and the criminal enterprise is fill in the blank. The criminal enterprise is what exactly? I tell you, halfway through, I really feel strongly that the government overcharged Diddy. They got some legitimate things they can get him on. He's definitely, I don't think I don't know how all of this is set up. If the RICO charge and then the sub charges underneath, however all of that works. All I'm saying is, again, we're almost at the end of day 15. We've had testimony today from a video forensic expert, and we've had testimony from Bana, a fashion designer who used to be friends, well, still is friends with Cassie, who talks about Diddy hanging her over the balcony, talks about her extensive drug use, talks about Cassie's extensive drug use, even when they were just partying together. Diddy not involved in any of those situations. She talked about also her selling drugs, that she sold drugs, right? So we got all this testimony, and the prosecution wants us to believe, okay, y'all, it was important for us to bring to you Miss Bonner today because we wanted to show y'all that this isn't just about how the defense is trying to get you to believe that this is a case that is grounded in a toxic domestic violence relationship with Diddy and Cassie. We wanted to show you all, as we have with other witnesses, that Diddy's been out here acting up with other people. He's been violent with other people. And to that, the prosecution wants us to then say, and those criminal incidents support the RICO charge. And I'm saying they do not. They do not. Look, prosecution is on the clock right now. They only got a little bit more time. Their part of this trial, far as them presenting witnesses, is really about to wrap up before the defense starts, bringing forth whatever witnesses they might have. And for us to almost be at the end of what the prosecution is going to present to us, and they have yet to clearly state what is the criminal enterprise. Not pushing back at all on all of the evidence that you've shown and the witnesses about these crimes that Diddy has committed. Diddy has been very busy and very criminal from what I'm seeing from all this testimony. Extorting $20,000, bribery, forced labor. I could get down with that. I believe that. Kidnapping. Okay. Yeah. Let's go with he did all of those criminal things that he should go to prison for some of that, But then you ask us to say, and when he had that person working all those hours and wouldn't let them go home, and then when they did go home, he sent security to go get them. That forced labor, that was a part of RICO because what? And that's what I'm asking them to fill in the blank. I need them to fill in the blank of that incident is a part of RICO because it was supporting the criminal enterprise that is fill in the blank. What is the criminal enterprise? What is it? I'm frustrated because I mean, I could not imagine Diddy being found not guilty on all charges. That I could not imagine. But just because I can't imagine it doesn't mean it can't happen. Because as I've referenced before, the Casey Anthony case from many, 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 many years ago, I thought for sure, no doubt about it, this woman was going to be found guilty, and she was not. If you don't know that story, look it up. Casey Anthony. In my opinion, that was a slam dunk. Guilty. She going to prison. She was found not guilty. So saying all that to say, you never really know how a jury verdict is going to turn out. I mean, at this point, I want them to just hurry up so we could get to the verdict watch part of this trial. But I am more and more frustrated every day that the prosecution has not yet told the jury or us these criminal activities that Sean Diddy Combs was involved with is a part of the criminal or supported the criminal enterprise that is what? Fill in the blank. What is a criminal enterprise? So yeah, I am still I'm struggling with that, and I'm getting frustrated a bit by it. Okay, so let's see if we have any update here. And we do. Just 1 second. All right, so let's go back up where we left off. Let's see. Defense attorney, you met the government January 8th, 2024. Didn't mention the "I could kill you" statement, but put it in your subsequent demand letter. Bonner said yes, in a demand letter. I don't know when. See, she doesn't know a whole lot of stuff. This is starting to be a problem. Defense attorney, read this. Bonner said the whole thing. Defense attorney points out a paragraph. Judge said as much as you want. Bonner said thanks. Okay. Defense attorney, you didn't tell the government about quote unquote "I could kill you" and Tyrone was there. Bonner said yes, I let him go. See, no. We need Bonner to get off the stand. Someone said, who expects an addict to accurately account for every detail of life while using? Do I think Combs held her over the balcony? Yes. Do I think she remembers much? No. Why the prosecution put her on the stand is beyond me. Her testimony wasn't even needed. Agreed. 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 What are we doing right now? Why do we have her on the stand? Someone said, in fairness, trauma can mess up your timeline. That said, Westmoreland has the witness sounding confused at best. She sounded very confused. Very confused. And if you were such an addict during a time where you went through whatever you're claiming you went through, and you cannot remember the details, I hate that. I hate that for the person who went through whatever they went through while they were using, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to convince people based on your word, based on your memory, based on you recounting, or recanting something that happened whenever it happened. You got to convince people that this is true and it's clear, and it doesn't feel as if you're confused or not quite sure because you were so, in your addiction at that time. Okay, somebody said Diddy is effing evil. I agree with that. Someone said, can someone please give her the script again? This is terrible. It is terrible. 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 Somebody said, I'm trying to understand the government purpose of bringing her on the stand. She's not adding anything for the RICO charge, and they clearly established his violent behavior. So what's the point? Agreed. Agreed. Someone else said this just in. Pathologically lying and making up elaborate stories to get a monetary judgment has been discovered as a new side effect of self induced trauma such as drug addiction. Sarcasm. Someone else said, I thought Mia was the weakest link, but Bonna is on another level. Agreed. Someone said they can't even impeach her. She has pictures of the bruises when he threw her on the furniture in the balcony, plus the neck brace. Everything else she said is just extras. I'm glad she had those pictures. Someone said she's keeping up with her story. The defense is trying to confuse her. Reread what was said. That's why she keeps saying, I don't know. No, I don't think she's keeping up with her story at all. At all. Not at all. Okay, so we left off with the defense attorney saying you didn't tell the government about the quote unquote I kill you statement. And Tyrone was there. That's the lawyer that she let go of. She said, yeah, but I let him go. Defense attorney, drugs were expensive, right? She said they are expensive. Defense attorney said, now. She almost got trapped up right then. Or she almost told on herself because of me. And again, we're not in the courtroom. We have no audio. But from how her testimony is reading, I've already said, girl, are you okay? Are you okay? Because it sounds, you don't. So the defense attorney said drugs were expensive, right? She said they are expensive. Defense attorney said now. And Bonner said, then she said, I don't know. Defense attorney, did you run out of money for drugs? Bonner said, I don't remember that. Defense attorney, you and Cassie had a drug partnership? And she said, yes. Why the government call this person? Why? Okay. The defense attorney said, Cassie would pay for the drugs. You'd go buy them. Bonner said, yes. Defense attorney, did you meet the government on May 25th, 2025 and June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th? Bonner said, yeah, that's not long ago. The defense attorney said, that's today. She said, I'm not good with dates. Come get Bonner off this stand. Come and get her off of this witness stand. The defense attorney said Cassie would pay for the drugs. You go buy them. Bonner said yes. Defense attorney said, did you meet with the government on May 25th, 2025 and June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th? She said, yeah, that's not long ago. The defense attorney said, that's today. She said, oh, I'm not good with dates. What? Come get her. The government, y'all ought to be ashamed. Y'all gave this lady an immunity agreement so she could come up here and talk. Really, all you really wanted from her, clearly, all you really wanted from her was to talk about when Diddy allegedly dangled her over the balcony on the 17th floor. That's really all you wanted her for, just to pile on to see how abusive this man can be, which I feel that box is checked, sealed, and certified. Okay. Now, all this other rambling she's doing, she has undermined everything she has said, even that part. Even that part. I don't get it. And again, I cannot connect this back to how is this incident in support of a criminal enterprise? And by the way, what is the criminal enterprise? Because you have not told us that yet. Let's check and see if we have an update. No, we're still waiting. Somebody comment, get her out of here. Yes, please get her out of here. Please get her out of here. What? Somebody else said, okay, this ain't fair anymore. Turn her loose now, in my granddaddy voice. That was funny. That was funny. Someone else said, Someone else said, Westmoreland, did you meet the government on May 25th, 2025 and June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th? Bonner, yeah, that's not long ago. Westmoreland, that's today. Bonner said, I'm not good with dates. That's today. Ha ha. Man, get this junkie TF up on out of here. Okay, now. I ain't gonna I just read the comment. I just read the comment. But I am in agreement to get her up out of here. So I tell you, oh, the last day, that's the day. And she said, oh, I'm just not good with dates. What? And when the defense attorney said drugs were expensive, weren't they? And she said drugs are expensive. That was not a Freudian slip. That lady trying to tell you, look, lady, come on now. I got stuff to do. And you know what stuff? Oh my goodness. This is just not good. Not good. And it's also not good because she hired Tyrone Blackburn initially to be her lawyer, but that's not a good look. And then she said he submitted paperwork and put wrong information when she was asking for $10 million from Diddy. It's just all of it just looks like no. No. Okay, let's see what the update was here. So we go back to where defense attorney said, did you meet the government on these dates, June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th? And she said, yeah, that's not long ago. Defense attorney said, that's today. She said, I'm not good with dates. Defense attorney said, the balcony incident. Didn't you tell the government there was a party in the apartment? She said, I don't remember that. She doesn't remember a lot of things. Defense attorney, you told the government your girlfriend was in the bathroom, not that you took her in there. Then she just wanted to clear up that that's her ex, that's not her current girlfriend, that is her ex. She just wanted to clear that part up. All right. While we wait, let me hop over to CNN right quick and let y'all know if we have anything over there. Defense attorney suggested that during Bonner's first meeting with prosecutors, she did not mention that Diddy told her, I could kill you. Bonner said that she didn't remember when she told the government about that incident. The defense attorney also suggested that Bonner later told prosecutors the incident happened at a party, not a photo shoot. Bonner said she did not remember if she said that. I'm telling y'all, this lady does not remember a whole lot of stuff. Maybe it's the after effects of the drugs, but she does not remember a whole lot of stuff. The defense attorney said the first demand letter from Bonner's attorney alleged that Combs said he could kill her while she was hanging over the balcony. Bonner testified that those were not her words and that the two incidents did not happen at the same time. She said she fired her attorney for that. So now it's the attorney's fault. Now it's the attorney's fault. After you then squirmed and sounded how you sounded on the stand, how do we know that? I don't know. Can we just get this lady off the stand? The defense probably is loving it. The defense is probably loving this moment right now. All right, let's see if we have any other update. Okay, so we're still waiting. Somebody posted my crazy ex. Someone else said, Miss Bonner, are you high right now? Are you high right now, Bonner? Are you? A lot of people are asking that. Are you high right now? Someone said, I have never been crossed by a brutal lawyer in court for a case in which I was a victim. The lawyer was so brutal and I have ever been. Okay. The lawyer was so brutal and disrespectful that I shut down and couldn't remember easily. Never used drugs either. Easy to judge if you aren't on the stand. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree. I think that could be a very traumatic experience. But at the end of the day, if you cannot rise to the occasion and be a good witness, then all we're left with is what we're left with. Period. It would also be unfair to the people you're testifying against for us to say, well, her testimony only came across that way because of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. No, we have to go by what you are presenting to us understand. How are you responding? How are you answering the questions? And right now, Bonner is not doing well. Someone said it's no wonder the government saw this girl three times in a row, including today. You can't fix this. This is bad. I'm telling you, the government met with her today. 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 And she's like, oh, I can't remember. I'm not good with dates. Somebody said, and I read that in her suit that she said she sent her into the bathroom. So I think this is pulling straws at this point. Maybe. Someone said Diddy about to come home and drop a quote love mixtape the way this is going. Someone said, see what I be saying about defense making small things into big things? Your girlfriend was already in the bathroom versus did you take her in there? I don't disagree with that either. Someone else said, I don't think the three of them, there is a party. I don't know. Today's a rough day. Today is a rough day. I agree. Today is a rough day. Today is a rough day. Okay? My. Somebody said they'd keep her on the stand until next month if they could. Her testimony is just too damaging. Government, please, it's embarrassing now. Next. I agree. I'm ready for her to leave for her own benefit, just like girl, because you looking a certain way up here. And no. It's kind of embarrassing at this point. But now if I were on the defense team, I'd feel like this is a gold mine. This is a gold mine. Somebody said, why does it matter if there was a damn party or where the heck the ex was? Well, they're trying to say, do you have the details right? You said this major incident of you being hanged off of a balcony on the 17th floor, you would think you would remember where that happened at. Did it happen at a hotel? Did it happen at Cassie's apartment? Who was all there? You would think you would remember that, but again, we do have to take into consideration the drug use. Somebody said, "Wake up, baked as F." Wow. Someone said, "It being your ex is implied. No need to stress the point. It's obvious it's not your current girl, right? Focus. That's why you getting your ass beat up on the stand now as it is. That girl ain't thinking about you. Focus." Yeah, she wanted to clarify when she said girlfriend. She's like, my ex. Oh, okay. Okay. She did put emphasis on that. She did definitely do that. Let's see if we have any update at this point. Okay, we do have one update. So again, you told the government your girlfriend was in the bathroom, not that you took her in there. And Bonner said, my ex. Defense attorney, your complaint says you were smoking a cigarette on the balcony, not weed. She said, I don't remember. Defense attorney, different things? She said, yes. Defense attorney, you told the government you recalled he was charging at you. She said, I don't remember. Where's my? She said she don't remember. She don't remember nothing. She up here on this witness stand. She is actually helping out the defense. Which kind of sucks. Because like I said, I have no issue with Diddy going down, if you will. I just need him to go down for the right charges. And he's such a horrible person, in my opinion. If Diddy goes to jail, prison, and I don't, if he's convicted of RICO, and I personally do not feel he was convicted of RICO, trust me, or he was not really found guilty, he was not guilty of RICO, trust me, I will not be shedding tears over here for Diddy. With that being said, though, this right here is a spectacle at this point. This is a spectacle. I want to see when will the defense like wrap it up. They got to wrap it up soon because what time is it? It is 3:47, so they must be going to 4 o'clock today. So they've got to be wrapping this up soon. But man, this was not helpful. So that's why when I read the commentary from the prosecutor, and they were like, an outside prosecutor, and they were like, "Oh yeah, they're really nailing it right now." I'm like, "No, they're not." And are you just saying that because you're a prosecutor? No, they're not. What are the regular people saying? We're saying, they are not. Okay, so back up where the defense attorney said, you told the government you recalled he was charging at you. She said, don't remember. Defense attorney said, didn't you say Mr. Combs sexually assaulted you on the balcony? She said, I showed them where his hand was. Defense attorney, you said he groped your breast or your lawyer said it. She said, my lawyer said that. Oh. Y'all. Y'all, what is happening right now? What is happening right now? Somebody said defense went too hard and the witness is done. Oh, she's done. Somebody said, Pinocchio. Someone said baloney. Someone else said could be conceived as badging, or they must have been badgering her from a juror perspective too. You never know. Maybe that could very well be the case. Bro really said, I don't remember, like he's on stage at the Grammys, not federal court. Someone said, that's not what I wanted. It's not in the script. Defense attorney been well rested since dawn. She may have to run anchor for the defense. Yeah, you're right. She didn't, after Don Richard, she didn't, Westmoreland hasn't done too much. Someone else said, again, he ran up on her. You call it charging or not, same outcome. At the end of the day, when they say to you, did you tell the government that he was charging at you? We all know what that means, running towards you aggressively. And you said, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. Come on. This is just someone else said. She said earlier that Diddy sneaked up on her like he was Batman. LMAO. Come on, bro. Now I do not recall that from the testimony. So maybe that person is just joking. Someone else said she was a drug addict. She's not going to remember everything. The defense is asking her, no way she would remember. Well, this is the problem we have. Not in disagreement with this comment, but you're here. And you are here allegedly, well, not even allegedly. You are here as an important witness for the prosecution. They decided to put you on the stand. You are here because you are supposed to have some very specific details about some things you have experienced with Diddy. So if you are here for that, when you are on the stand, you can't then expect the people receiving the testimony, including the jury, to say, oh, well, what can you expect? Yeah, her testimony was all over the place and she didn't remember a lot. And, it was kind of weird in spaces, but, she used to do a lot of drugs. Now, how do I put credibility on that, though, when you're asking me to consider this testimony for how I decide someone's guilt or innocence? You can't have it both ways. So if you're going to bring a person on the stand and we're going to receive the testimony, however we receive it, based off of what they give on that stand, or you're not going to bring the person if you think it's not going to work out, it's going to be a bad look. This was a call by the government to bring Bonner to the stand. That was their call. Okay, let's see what else we have. We have an update. Nope, we don't yet. We left off here where she said, my lawyer said it. Okay. You said he groped your breast, or your lawyer said it? She said, my lawyer said that. Now, unless she comes back with something else, that sounds like to me saying, my lawyer said that. I did not say that. He got a lot of stuff wrong, and that's why I fired him. Because she did let go of that first lawyer for her civil suit. Diddy or did he not? Diddy did more than enough stuff to go to prison for a really long time. Someone else said, this poor girl is getting harassed at this point. Someone else said, defense nailed this one. Yes, to the cross. Someone said, defense better keep Westmoreland on cross from now on. She's a straight up, Hey, Brian Steele was good too. Someone said, this witness is toast. Someone else said, when is, and I'm saving some of these bookmarks because I may use them for content later. Someone said, when is the prosecution going to object? Why are they letting their witness get cooked? They must be over there waving the white flag. Makes you wonder, because that's a very good point. She's been testifying like this now for a while, and there has been no objections from the prosecution. Someone said, now that's what happened when you prep a unkie to make up a story they clearly don't have a good memory of. Okay. Someone said, is this grounds to move for a mistrial? These prosecutors are Coach Phil Jacksoning their witnesses. Someone else said, this is absolutely, I don't know, let me unlike that because I'm not suggesting there needs to be a mistrial. This is absolutely bad. Yes. Now she's making her lawyers too look bad. When are they trying to trip? When they are trying to trip you up on the details and you have your own immunity on the line, it's best to say you don't recall and then let them refresh your memory. Now, that's a good point. Now that I do think is a good point. Maybe why she's saying so much of I don't remember is because she's doing that for her own safety, like to not lie and then get her immunity agreement taken away. And then she has consequences for the things she's testified to. So again, maybe that is what she's doing. Someone said, another day of the defense dragging out the day with nonsense questions and earning their bag. So no redirect today, and she has to come back tomorrow. Well, let's see if we have gotten there. Let's see if we have gotten there. Nope, we're still at the part where she said her lawyer said that. Okay. And I don't think we have any other update from CNN. We don't. So at the moment, we are waiting for another update. But yeah, this is not a good look. Someone said, bro really said, I don't remember. Okay, we read that comment before. Somebody said she's like a broken McDonald's ice cream machine. Okay. All right. I don't know what's even taking so long for us to get an update at this point. So again, to quickly just recap, because I'm hoping the next update we get will be the judge telling the jury they can go home. Today, because on some of these days I like to give points to whomever. I would give a point to the prosecution for the forensic video expert, only because they knew the defense was going to try to say something with the video was doctored with Diddy assaulting Cassie. So I'll just give them a point for bringing an expert. Saying it that way because it really didn't matter, expert or not. People saw the tape. Nobody believes that tape was doctored, that video was doctored at all. We saw what we saw. Not only did we see what we saw on that tape, Diddy also apologized shortly after that tape was released. So what happened on the tape was real. Okay. But I'll give a point to the prosecution for just, bringing along an expert just to dot that I and cross that T. Okay. I will give a point, probably 3 points to the defense for the cross examination of the person who's on the stand now, Bonna. That's what she goes by. Her name, I think, is actually Brianna Bongolan, if I'm not mistaken. She was brought forth by the prosecution to testify and to talk about the incident where Diddy allegedly dangled her over a 17th floor balcony. And it has been a complete shit show. It has. So I see the defense definitely earning some points with this cross of her. I think they have blown up her credibility. And I think they've blown up her credibility in such a way that it may just open up jurors to say, even look at other testimony as just like, I don't know. It's a bad look right now for the prosecution. It is a bad look right now. So, yeah. So ultimately, all that means is that I have the defense winning the day today based off of the testimony that we had. And I'm just kind of at a loss for words here because I can't believe the government met with this person so many times. The 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, May, some date in May, but you met with her all these times. So you had to know what she was probably going to give on the stand. And you brought her forth anyway. I think they really wanted to get that dangling over the balcony part in the record. Because like someone said in the comments, with the defense team crucifying her right now, the prosecution has not objected, not once. Not once. So it's looking kind of strange out here. It's looking kind of strange out here. All right, we have a couple of updates, so let's check them out. So when we left off, the defense attorney said, you said he groped your breasts or your lawyer said it. She said, my lawyer said that. Defense attorney, didn't you tell the prosecutors 2 days ago that you could not remember what happened out on that balcony? She said, I don't remember. Well, if you don't remember, how did you testify earlier about exactly what happened and he did this and he did that and he said this to you? I'm not understanding. The defense attorney said, do you remember what drugs you were on? She said, no. Defense attorney, didn't you tell the government you took Molly, G, and cocaine? Bonner said, that's a lot of drugs. Defense attorney, didn't you take them all? She said, no, all on that. I guess she meant not all on that night. This is so bad. This is so bad. Someone commented, that would be an interesting trip. Yeah, you better hope you make it back from that trip. Somebody else said she wouldn't be here if she did them all in one night. Someone said, OMG, I'm worried. Is she okay? She a certain okay. Someone says she's coming back, girl. Come back. Don't let them doubt you. This lady is not coming back. This lady needs to get off the stand as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Okay. Let's see. Someone in the comments said, oh, that's an ad. Someone in the comments said at this point she got amnesia. Mm. Someone else said this line of questioning is ridiculous and not a good look for the defense. I don't agree with that, but maybe some people do think that. Someone else did to shake my head. What the F? Didn't she just name all the drugs she was doing? Come on, man. Yeah. She is testifying, giving details, like, and especially what happened on the balcony. And then now, if she's like, I don't remember. I'm like, but you just testified too. You gave details, but now you're saying you don't remember what happened on the balcony, but you told us earlier what happened on the balcony. When you do drugs that much, you don't remember which ones you were on which days. I imagine not. Somebody else said defense attorney pressing hard, maybe even to the point of badgering Banya, coming off uncertain, coached and inconsistent. Whether jurors saw it as tough lawyering or bullying depends on how they feel about her now. Good point. Someone said they ask it unrealistic questions. Who remembers what you drank for New Year's last year or the year you graduated? What was your drink at the party? Who the F would remember that? I agree with that, but I think when they ask you about like what happened on the balcony, or do you remember what happened on the balcony? And at one point in the testimony, you described what happened on the balcony, even when the prosecutors were asking you questions, and now you're saying I don't remember. I mean, because that question is very material to the main reason she was even brought forward as a witness by the state or by the government. Someone says someone's gonna get very upset. Someone's gonna get a very upset call from Cassie and company tonight. Would that not be something if Deontay and Cassie called her tonight and said, girl, what were you doing up there today? What were you doing up there today? Would that not be hilarious? Would that not be hilarious? Someone else said, poor girl, she shut down. I see the prosecutor angle why they made her testify, but they should not have. She said she didn't want to be in court to testify at all. Facts. And let me tell you, I do feel sorry for people who don't want to be involved in something like this, and then they're kind of left with no choice but to be involved. I do feel bad. That has to be horrible. Somebody said you can't remember from 2 days ago. LOL. She is under pressure. Mine is blank. Yeah. Someone else said call it a day. Defense got the best of this one for sure. I was too high to know the drugs I was high on. Someone else said, damn, this is bad. It is bad. Someone else said she officially clocked out and said, I'm done. Facts. I don't remember. You called me as a witness so that I could tell you all the horrible things this man did. So let me tell you. And when you ask me 5 minutes later about those things, I'm going to say, I don't remember. Someone else said, no way Diddy facing a life sentence. And these are witnesses the prosecution chose. That ties back to my biggest complaint about the government overcharging Diddy. Someone else said, this is a horror. Get her off the stand. I feel sorry for her. I agree with that. Someone else said, I think Diddy just did shit the way he wanted to do things. But so far, I don't see nobody being forced into nothing. Being around him just made them weak minded because they never been so close to somebody with that much power. That's all I've been getting. Well, he has spoken for a lot of people. Someone said she didn't remember shit, man. This is crazy. Get her on off the stand, and people don't do drugs. Okay, someone else said, okay, let's be serious now. No matter which side you on, we can all agree this should be impeached. This is serious business. Mm, 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 mm. Someone else said, it's a mess. Wrap it up. The show is over. Someone else said, this is why criminals and addicts are never used as a witness. I agree with that too. This is very bad. This is way worse than how Mia ended up being near the end of her testimony. And with Mia, for me, it was more so I got tired of the defense because I felt like they were finding new ways to ask questions that I felt like we already know, even if it's not the specific thing you're asking about, what is covering, we already know. I just felt like they drug it out way too long. I thought they were annoying. Okay, let's see if we have it. All right, we do have an update. All right, so we left off with the defense attorney saying, do you remember what drugs you were on? Bonner said no. Defense attorney, didn't you tell the government you took Molly, G, and cocaine? She said, that's a lot of drugs. This is in the testimony she gave earlier. I mean, before they started their cross. This is a testimony she gave today that they asking her, didn't you tell the government you took Molly, G, and cocaine? She said, that's a lot of drugs. This is what she told people. This is what she told the prosecutor when they were asking her questions before the defense started crossing her. Westmoreland said, didn't you take them all? She said, not all on that night. Defense attorney, how much more do you, I'm sorry, the judge asked the defense, how much more do you have? The defense attorney said, how much can I get? And laughs, I'd like to finish today. The judge said, I asked you how long. Defense attorney said, quite a bit more. Judge told the jurors, you may go until 11 a.m. tomorrow. Okay, so they're getting a late start tomorrow. The jury leaves. The judge says, how much more? The defense says 45 minutes, maybe 30. The judge said, anything else? Prosecutor said, I emailed you during the afternoon about a pseudonym order for Jane. Okay. And let's see, before we tap out of today, what the CNN update was on this. The jury is dismissed for the day. As defense attorney says, Bonner cross-examination will need up to an hour more. The jury has been dismissed for the day. Yeah, okay. Y'all, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I will say, though, this Bonner person, I wish her well. I do. I genuinely wish her well. I don't know what is true from how she testified, but what I do know, as far as what happened with her and Diddy, but what I do know is all she testified to about drug use and all of that. So this woman has definitely been through some things. So I wish her well. And I don't feel as if the prosecution adequately prepared her for what she had to do today. And maybe they did prepare her, but did not accept that she would not do well on the witness stand because they desperately wanted to have testimony on the record about Diddy allegedly dangling her from a 17th floor balcony. But she doesn't remember exactly what happened on the balcony. She remembers and then she doesn't remember on the same day today. She doesn't remember, was it at an apartment or was it at a hotel? And I told Cassie some of the details she had wasn't what I remembered. And she doesn't remember a whole lot of things. I don't know how it came across in the courtroom, but how it came across reading the thread from the person who's in the courtroom and crossing over and looking at the CNN updates, it just doesn't look like she's just not a good witness. They should not have put her on the stand, in my opinion. But that is it for today. Now tomorrow, I know of course they're going to continue with Bonner here. Jane should definitely start her testimony tomorrow because they were actually hoping to start her testimony today. They're taking a lot more precautions with Jane because of how Mia's identity got out so easily. Good luck with that, I say. I think once you walk into that courtroom, there's no way your anonymity will stay intact. In a high profile case like this, if you're talking about specific times, events, who you were with, who all was there, other famous people, social media is going to figure out who you are. I am glad to hear though the judge has put his foot down with content creators who are there, who I think 3, if I'm not mistaken, now the number is up to 3 who have been banned from attending court because supposedly they released Mia's information, like her real name and other things in their YouTube videos. So I'm like, okay, yeah, because y'all, come on now, you can't do that. But anyway, we are here now. We are here now at the end of day 15. Day 15. Okay. And we'll see what tomorrow brings. But I leave this day just like I left every other day, waiting to hear what is the criminal enterprise that benefited or supported Diddy's criminal behavior. What is it? All right. Until the next time. Bye, y'all.